doing today?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. What's interesting about this interview, and I try to start with like a curveball, if you will, with every interview.
Okay.
To mix it up.
Okay.
And I was preparing, researching, thinking about how I wanted to start, and I realized that you will not remember this.
Okay.
But years ago, when Collider first started, you were actually one of the first people I ever interviewed or participated in an interview with, and it was for Accepted at Comic-Con.
Why is that in quotes?
What?
Accepted.
Because it was the title.
Okay.
Like I was making, ignore that part, but
Okay.
it was Accepted at Comic-Con 2006, and it's interesting because there's a very long gap between talking to someone, like 11 years.
Yes.
So I want to just jump backwards and say, did you have any inkling back then?
How successful you would be? Absolutely not. I was like, this guy has 2 months tops until he is just
kicked out.
Starting a food truck.
Right.
A comedy club.
Right. Exactly. No, but being serious for you, did you, at that time, I'm sure you were thinking about, an acting career. Maybe that's something that's going through your brain. Mm-hmm. Did you have any inkling that the trajectory, with your career back then, was this like the dream of how it's gone?
No, because I come from a family of actors, so I didn't know what I wanted to do for a living, but I knew it definitely wasn't acting. And it was something that I was sort of groomed for without anyone realizing it or intentionally grooming me for it. My parents had acting classes. My siblings my dad, they were always on sets. So I grew up around it and exposed to it. So it was the thing that I knew most, and it was the thing that I was probably best at, or the thing I was exposed to most. And so yeah, I just thought I want to carve my own path and find what I want to do. And when I did Accepted, I did a film, which was my first job, was Sister of the Traveling Pants. I went back to school for my senior year in high school because I thought, well, I need to finish out high school. I'm not going to just jump on this acting train and hope that it takes me somewhere, because I'd seen enough of how this job works to know that it's talent, sure, but it's also luck of the draw in a lot of ways. So I thought I'll go back to school and then I'll defer college for a year and I'll try this out. So Accepted was my first job, and I started it the day after I graduated high school, which was also very rare and very lucky that I thought, I'll try this thing out for a year, and the day I graduate, I get a job, and then I didn't work for a year. It's the only job I did that whole year. And I thought, okay, well, I'll go back to college. I tried this out, and then at the end of it, Josh Schwartz and Stephanie Savage from Gossip Girl came to me, and they were at the very forefront of the thing where people hire people based on what fans or blogs thought. Because there was no social media then, there weren't really blogs much, but fans of the book had seen me in Sister of the Traveling Pants, my first job, not Accepted, my second job, and they voted for me. They took it upon themselves to vote for me to be Serena van der Woodsen. And Josh and Stephanie thought, well, if the fans chose her, then they're probably going to have a better response to the show if we hire the one person they chose rather than us auditioning people and us deciding. And so it's the first time that they really looked to fans to tell their story, and that's how that happened.
Do you miss the TV grind at all, in terms of, because it's like a consistent job, you're working all the time, but at the same time, like, I think a lot of people don't realize the hours that go on when you're making a TV show.
Yeah, we were shooting 2 to 3 episodes at once, and we would shoot about 27 episodes a year. And
by the way, that's a crazy number.
It's a crazy number because it's 10 months of the year, and we were shooting, that's a long story, but we would shoot 16 to 18 hour days every single day. And it was just nuts because we were going from, we were shooting multiple episodes at once, so the crew, even though they had certain hours before they'd go into overtime, we didn't, and we were young and teenagers. So we would work all day on one crew and then go to another crew and shoot a different episode at the same time and bounce back and forth. So it was totally nuts. But it was nice working and living in New York City, and what a fabulous job to be on, where we got to go to all the fun restaurants and stores, and and it wasn't, you didn't have the pressure of having to act well because you didn't have the time to act well. They would give us our lines at the very last second, so we would learn, because they were writing them. It was just so hard to keep up with that machine. It goes back to how they cast the show. It was just all about that pop culture machine. And so we were learning the lines at last second. And so it was a genre show, you know? So you're not being naturalistic. You're just trying to come across as natural as possible while also still being heightened and playing into the genre while wearing the clothes and making sure your clothes swirl while acting, and then making sure the scenery of New York City is behind you. And, you know, so...
Did you ever actually redo a take because the clothes didn't swirl right?
Probably. I don't know. Probably. There was a lot of focus on the aesthetics. But yeah, so it was not, there were different things that I really appreciated about that show. And there were different things that were really hard about that show. But acting is not like, when I think of it, I don't think of the acting ever, because that was just sort of like the last thing on the priority list.
Jumping to why I get to talk to you today, how did this project, how did you first meet Mark to get involved with this project?
So I met Mark, we had a meeting. I read his script and I loved it. And it's a very visual film and a very abstract film. And that's hard to articulate in text and a script. So while my own imagination filled in the blanks, when he would say, oh, now it's going to be blurry, or now she's swimming through an ocean, an infinite ocean, or she's spinning underwater in the fetal position, is like, you're just, as a ballerina, thinking, what does that look like? So seeing him, hearing how he would, and actually seeing, he had visual presentation of how he wanted to execute it, just made me even more excited to work with him. And he's somebody who can jump genres. I mean, from Stranger Than Fiction to Monsters Ball to Finding Neverland to Kite Runner to World War Z. I mean, he's just like, he just has, he's so agile and he's so heartful. So yeah, I mean, working with him was a no-brainer. The character was really strong. The arc was incredibly strong. It was a role I could completely disappear into. And we actually had a friend in common who's sitting right behind you, Mr. Ryan Knighton. He was, I was a fan of Ryan from hearing him on This American Life, actually. My husband and I were both a fan of him, and we became friends with him, and then Mark Forster was telling me a story, and he said, I have a friend who lost his eyesight, and this is sort of, I've been relying on him as someone to help me with the storytelling, and then he also helped him in the sound design and all of that after, to make sure it was an authentic experience. And I said, what's his name? And he said, Ryan. I said, Ryan Knighton. So we had a friend in common that was so random, and so we really bonded over that. And Ryan actually helped us so much in our process throughout, because Ryan's also, he's written 2 books and he's a great screenwriter, so he was so helpful in the movie making process, but also in helping us create an authentic experience and tell the story as honestly as possible.
I think one of the things that plays strong with the film is that it's shot internationally. Mm-hmm. You know, you were in Spain, you were in Bangkok, mm-hmm. And I think those on location things add to the, to the character and to the relationship, and a lot different than if you were in like Seattle.
Yeah.
So you can be honest. You shot 11 weeks.
I can be honest?
No, I'm making a joke. This is why I'm not funny. You shot for 11 weeks in Bangkok and Spain. Mm-hmm. Admit that you paid to be in the movie.
Yeah.
Because you wanted a vacation in these 2
Yeah,
places.
for sure. No, I for sure paid.
This is why I'm saying I'm not funny.
No, I know, but this has become your identity, that you're not funny. You start with I'm not funny, so you can allow yourself freedom to be funny, but you are funny and charming.
Yeah.
You know what it is? It's precedence. You have to create precedence, because I think that I'm Jason Bateman. So I see there's no precedent for me being funny. So I say a really dry joke and no one laughs and they think I'm being serious or think I'm being a jerk. But I, in my head, am just like, it's a Jason Bateman zinger.
Sure.
But my husband could say the same thing and people belly laugh, but it's because there's precedent. There's precedent for him being funny. So, yeah, you just have to create precedent. And you start that by stop saying,
I will remember
I'm not funny.
I will remember what you're saying.
And your girlfriend needs to start telling you you're funny. It's true, because I can't sing. I know I can't sing. That's my identity. I love singing more than anything in the whole world. And I'm like, nice to meet you. I can't sing to save my life. I sang in this movie.
I was going to say, I'm like...
No, it's not great, but the thing is, it's like, it doesn't matter, because this character's not a singer. She's singing at a kid's recital, and actually Babyface was the person who was coaching me, because we were at his recording studio. It was so cool. And they had auto-tune on in my ear, and I would sing and it would go, whoa, as it would like, pull my voice to the right note. And they said, he came in and he said, turn the auto-tune off. He said, stop trying to sing notes, perform this emotionally. Go back to that scene, tell your story. Sing this song to me as the performance that you did in that movie. Forget about the notes. He said, doesn't matter if you sing the right notes or not, we can fix it. And then we did it, and he said, see, we don't have to fix it, because yes, it wasn't, some notes weren't exactly on the right, like on the spectrum of pitches. Maybe it was something that was slightly under or slightly over, but he's like, it was authentic, and there's character in voice, and he's like, just perform it. If you cry during it, cry during it. And it was so cool because, yeah, it's not perfect, but it was real.
Was the singing part in the script when you got it?
Yes.
So basically that was another reason you wanted this movie. To be able to sing.
No, it was one of the reasons, the singing, the nudity, there were things in the movie that I thought, I don't want to do this. Even the blindness, I thought this is such a challenge that I don't know that I can do this. And that's what I always look for, is something that challenges me to the point where I think, I can't do this, so I have to do it. At other people's time. But yeah, I mean, I wore lenses that took away my sight for all the wider shots where we could get away with that, and it was hard because unlike your own home that you know so intimately, here you step into a set and you have to get to know that set so intimately, but you remove the sense that we rely on most, and that's really hard. You have to get to know a place by feeling, by sound, by textures. And that was, or even get to know your co-star. I have to be able to read him emotionally without looking at him, because yes, when I'm looking in your eyes and I say something like, I can't get pregnant, I can't conceive a baby, and we're looking at each other, there's like something so strong and so intense and so emotional. But if I look at you like this and I'm trying to tell you that same thing, I have to connect with you on another level because I don't have the crutch of your eyes to bear into. So it actually makes it a lot harder, but it makes the performance holistically so much more authentic because you are acting with every bit of your soul and every bit of your body.
One of the things I think that it touches on the fact that these two people were in love, but the minute it's a real thing, I would imagine that when you get your sight back, you become a different person. And I think that's one of the aspects of the film that's like realistic between a couple. It's just interesting, that dynamic of how it changes. There wasn't a question here. I'm just giving props to.
But I actually agree and disagree respectfully in many ways. Is that I don't think she becomes a different person. I think that she discovers herself in so many ways, and the process of self-discovery that normally happens in your teenage years, where you see that girl in school that has bleach blonde hair and blue eyeshadow, and you think, I'm gonna try that because that's cool, and is that me? And you try it for a little while, and you think, oh no, that's me. But there's parts of it that I like, so I'm gonna just keep the this part, or now I'm going to try out this girl and this personality, and now I'm going to try out me, and you're figuring out who you are, and you have that exploration, and you're discovering yourself and your sexuality, and you're discovering your powers as a person or as a woman. And to experience that once you're already in an established relationship, once you're already an adult, it's very threatening for him. So it's not that she's become a different person at all, she's just seeing things in a different way and trying things out. And what's interesting about their relationship is that she still wants him. She doesn't need him anymore, but she wants him. And isn't that a beautiful thing, to be wanted rather than be needed? And for him, he can't take that. He needs her to need him. He needs her to rely on him. And that's also why Thailand was such an important location, because he takes her away on this job where she's in it. Not only does she not have her sight, but she's in a place where there's a completely foreign language, when the culture is completely foreign. So she really is trapped in a way that is really hard for her, but because their love is so strong, she it doesn't seem trapped, but when she spreads her wings and still chooses him, he can't handle it. It's too threatening, which is I think true to a lot of relationships, and I don't think it has to do with anything with sidedness, that dynamic.
I agree. I think Jason Clarke is a very talented actor. Same with Danny Houston. You got to collaborate with both. You can share some stories about working with Jason, because I really am a fan of his work in a big way.
He's great. He's someone who often gets pegged for the sinister guy in movies, but is so caring and tender and heartfelt, that I think that that's what's always so surprising about him, because he has these piercing blue eyes. So there's something that people sort of like pin him as the evil guy, but those same eyes are so soulful that he's so complex and emotional and caring. And like, I did this movie 4 months after having a baby, and it required a lot of me physically and emotionally, and he had a baby 2 weeks after me, so he was so sensitive to that. He'd always make sure I had breaks and time to make sure I was able to connect with my baby or feed my baby, or, you know, he was just great. Mark was great that way. Danny Houston is obviously an iconic, incredible actor, and wow, it was so cool to work with him. But also Anna O'Reilly, Miguel, Yvonne, Wes. There were a lot of little roles in this film that made up this film. I mean, we had a lot of cool people for Gina to pick from and explore and figure out who she is. And it's neat to see her interact with each of those people, and she takes a part of them or their life and tries it on, you know, to find who she is.
You recently worked, I believe, with Paul Feig.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a huge fan of his work. He creates very, very dynamic and cool characters for women.
Yes.
And you got to work with Anna Kendrick in this.
Yes, I did.
What can you tease people about the project? What was it that got you involved?
Well, I'm a huge fan of Paul. I mean, all of his work I just love. And there's just such a celebration of life and character and levity and all that he does. I love that his characters, the stories are always very truthful, but the characters are grand. You know, they're almost over-the-top characters, and I love that. So, you know, this movie, in any other hands, you would think that it was a thriller, but in his hands, you think, what's that going to be? Because the script does read like a thriller. It doesn't read like a comedy, but Paul is definitely not the guy who's making a thriller, so it's very much, it feels like a throwback movie. It's almost like a noir movie. I keep referencing. I say like a Bette Davis movie. You're laughing most of the time through it because the characters are so divine and delicious and over the top, yet it's the content of the story is really disturbing or scary. So that's sort of, I guess, what this would be. And, you know, getting to work with him, Anna Kendrick is just masterclass working with her. And for me, it was the first time that I'd really, other than Accepted, it was the first time I had ever stepped into anything that felt like the comedy world. And so it was intimidating, especially with someone as terrific as Anna, because she's not just funny, but she's just so whip smart that it's a deadly combo. But so it was really fun. It was really fun, being on the court with her.
I think, I could be wrong, but someone disappears in the movie and someone's looking for that person. Am I wrong? So you're the person who disappears.
Don't tell anyone.
Right.
I don't know who I'm blocking.
Exactly. No, but I mean, I read the log line of the movie. So are you a big part of the film? Is it like, can you reveal, or are you guarded?
Yeah. Well, you don't want to unravel the story, so it loses its thrills. But yes, my character goes missing in this story.
I'll leave it there so you don't get in any trouble. I could be wrong, but are you getting into producing? Like The Husband's Secret? I
am. I'm producing The Husband's Secret. You know, something that you end up doing, especially in this day and age with social media and marketing and all of that, where you are the voice rather than some billboard or TV commercial, or, you know, even developing a character from go, you end up producing, but sort of behind the scenes, you know, so you get exposed to it, and so yeah, I get to do it in an official capacity this time, which is exciting because the response with Big Little Lies was so great, but it was so great because they did such a beautiful job with it, from the performances to the editing to the sound design to the music to the directing. It was great, and so to take this author's work, and this was actually, I think, before Big Little Lies TV show came out, this was her most successful book, The Husband's Secret. So to take something that readers love so much, and then now a property and a writer that audiences love so much, but to tell it in a way that doesn't feel like you're trying to do nobody's going to make Big Little Lies better than Big Little Lies. So how do you service that, but then also give the audience something fresh? It's a challenge.
Well, where are you in the development process for this thing?
We're pretty early in the development of this thing. I just finished the movie with Paul Feig, and then I'm about to do a movie with Reed Morano and Barbara Broccoli.
I believe it's
an assassin film, and then so
I wrote that down.
Getting through those.
Yeah, well, I mean that's cool though. That it seems like you're bouncing from genre to genre.
Yeah, it's and I don't really think of it that way. It's just really character to character. So which character is the most dimensional and multifaceted and challenging. In Paul Feig's movie, I get to play so many different women within one person because she's a person who really is such a chameleon. And then with Rhythm Section, I have such a great arc. Go from being a woman who's living on the streets and is addicted to heroin and is a prostitute, and not in a way that you see in film where it's glamorized, in a way that when you actually drive down Skid Row and you say, oh my gosh, this is so tragic that society has just written these people off, and here's a woman who goes and ends up overcoming that life and reclaiming herself. And so it's it's a neat arc, neat story.
I gotta wrap with you, but when do you film the Reed Morano project?
In a week and a
Oh,
half.
for real?
No, I go there in a week and a half, and then I continue to learn all my fights and my guns and my driving and my swimming and my rock climbing and my languages. Because as an assassin, you have to do all of that.
I gotta
and then
say,
shoot.
that sounds awesome.
So awesome.
Right?
So awesome.
I'm like, and
This is the best part of our job, is the skills that you get to learn before, or the people that you get to meet before, the people who any fragment of their life you're trying to capture and tell in a story, or any skill set that you're trying to grab and capture for storytelling. I mean, that's so cool.
I completely am envious, and that sounds awesome. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Congrats with this.
Thank you.
Let me hit stop.